I know you're on the Intel Committee, so considering everything that you have learned, when you hear the president downplaying the probe, what's your reaction?
Well, Alex, it goes a long way to sharpen the knives that the Russians have to go at us again. It makes us more vulnerable when we have disunity here in the United States, a lack of acknowledgement as to what happened, and it just emboldens the Russians to believe they could pull off another attack, whether it's 2018 or 2020. And it's also just parroting the same statements that you're seeing from Vladimir Putin. And for the President of the United States to be taking the same position as the Russian president is very disturbing, and it's a place that no U.S. leader has been in the last 60 years.
So I know that you're well aware, former campaign advisor for Donald Trump, Roger Stone. He's testifying before your Intel Committee on Tuesday. What are the top three questions you want to ask him?
You know, and Alex, we don't confirm witnesses that are coming in, but obviously Roger Stone is a person of monumental interest for us because he was an advisor to the president. He has remained in contact with the president, and he is somebody who was quite active on social media during that intense summer of 2016. He had told the world that John Podesta was about to spend his time in the barrel, which was unusual because he had never really been tweeting about John Podesta at all. And at that point, in August of 2016, no one had any idea, that just 2 months later, John Podesta's emails would be leaked. And then we later learned that Roger Stone was in contact with the Russian hackers. All
right. Well, despite your not confirming what we believe to be true with your committee on Tuesday, we do know Roger Stone has said that he wanted to testify in open hearing. And if this indeed is happening on Tuesday, it's a closed hearing. Why the difference? Why would one be more beneficial than the other?
Yeah, Alex, generally, my position is we should have as many open hearings as possible. The American people should understand what the Russians did and who the key players are. Now, you also want to protect against witnesses cooking up stories or listening to what another witness says and then tailoring their testimony around that. And so, you have a duty to protect against that too. But I think if the public interest, outweighs that interest, they should always hear. Now, sometimes in some cases that isn't what's going to happen. But what we should do after we conduct all of our interviews is put out a report as to what every witness said, and hopefully that goes a long way to just having more awareness in the next election so this never happens again.
Well, according to reports this past week, Special Counsel Bob Mueller is zeroing in on former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort as part of his investigation. Do you, sir, get the sense this is bringing us closer to evidence of collusion and potentially Trump's knowledge of that collusion?
Yeah, Alex, I think you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to have access to classified information to see that Donald Trump, his family, his campaign, and his businesses had a very deep willingness and eagerness to work with the Russians. We saw that from Michael Cohen trying to strike a Trump Tower deal, from Don Jr. and Jared Kushner and Paul Manafort taking meetings where the Russians were offering damaging information, dispatching Carter Page, a senior foreign policy advisor, over to Russia in July with permission of the campaign, and then of course working with Roger Stone, who was in communication with the hackers. We're trying to figure out whether that materialized to a working relationship, and I just hope that we are as dogged and as curious in our pursuit on the House Intelligence Committee as Bob Mueller and his team are in theirs.
I want to ask you about former FBI Director James Comey's firing, because it could be another factor in the Russia probe. In fact, yesterday, my colleague Joy Reid asked Hillary Clinton whether she would have considered firing him. Let's take a listen to that.
I would have certainly looked hard at it, and as I write in the book, much of what he did violated Department of Justice protocol. It was unprecedented. It was outside the bounds of what prosecutors do, let alone an investigator, which is what his job was. That troubled me because you don't want people acting rashly, impulsively, or in this case, as some have suggested, under pressure for political purposes.
Does Clinton have a more justifiable case for firing Comey? And then does her answer give President Trump cover for taking the action that he did?
Well, I'll take President Trump at his word as to why he fired James Comey, which was because of the Russia investigation. And so, I really don't, have much interest, and I don't think many of my colleagues do, of relitigating the past. The facts as they are now is that James Comey was investigating the president. He was looking into what the president and Michael Flynn's relationship was. The president asked for the Flynn case to go away. James Comey wouldn't do that, and then he was fired. And I think, you know, something that will not be forgotten when we close the chapter on this is that the president threatened that he had tapes of their conversations. Without knowing whether or not he was taped, James Comey came to Congress, raised his right hand, and under oath told the whole story, which has not been contradicted yet. So I think, you know, that has put the president perilously close to an obstruction of justice charge, and we'll wait to see what Bob Mueller finds.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.